abstention from work does a man attain freedom from action, nor by mere renunciation does he attain to his perfection. Shri Krishna is saying here that if a person does not act, then he cannot attain God, and if a person stops from acting, then he also cannot attain God. Say that again. If a person does not act, then he cannot attain God, and if a person stops acting, then he cannot attain God. We already know that actions lead to blame. We've just seen this. Now, then what can we do to avoid that blame? We would think of two ways. The first is not to do actions, and it is only because we act that we incur blame. Shri Krishna refutes this way in the first part of this verse. Not by abstention from work does a man to attain freedom from action. Shri Krishna refutes that. Shri Krishna says that if one thinks that they can attain God by not acting at all, then they are mistaken. The second way is to stop the actions that we had already started doing. But Shri Krishna also says in the second part of this verse that this is a mistaken view. Not by mere renunciation does he attain to his perfection. Then how can we avoid blame? The way of action and the way of knowledge are not in fact conflicting. They are both obligatory. You can never be on an extreme. Once you get the right combination of both, then you will be successful in life. People of the way of knowledge need actions so they know what they're going to do, and people of the way of knowledge need actions in order to demonstrate the wisdom and the knowledge that they've learnt. What is the use of knowledge when it is not translated into action? Only through actions can people have a valuation of that knowledge. Both are necessary. Only through a knowledge of the soul can actions lead people of the way of action to reach the ultimate goal. That is what thinkers say. When a person realizes that they are the soul, then they see that everyone's soul and their soul are the same and not different. After this, whatever actions they will do will be karma yoga. That is why Shri Krishna said in the second chapter of the Gita, in verse 38, Sukhe dukhe samkratva labha lajaya jayu tato yudaya yujasva ne avam papam avapyashi, meaning treating alike, class that Sonal gave, treating alike pleasure and pain, gain and loss, victory and defeat, then get ready for battle. Thus you shall not incur sin. Only once a person reaches a state of bliss, when one reaches a state of bliss, then they experience their soul. When they experience themselves, the soul, then they also experience God. The two are not different, but in fact, they're the exact same experience, the soul and God. Once a person realizes themselves and realizes God, then they realize the world. Narsi Mehta said, Akila Brahman ma ektu Shri Hari, Hari Jujva Rupe Anant Vase. Then they realize that the soul and everyone's souls are exactly the same. The soul and God are the same. They cannot be different. It says, Ayam Atma Brahma Aham Brahmasmi. The soul is Brahman and I am Brahman, therefore we are the same. With this realization, whatever one does is karma yoga. After that, one does actions without a desire in their mind. Until one does not have knowledge, then that person regards himself as different from the world. It is only because a person regards himself as different that there are feelings of sonal, gain and loss, victory and defeat, pleasure and pain. Remember, Shri Krishna said, when you treat it like victory and defeat, it's in the Western world, the root of concept of sin is so deep-rooted. Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden, had the forbidden apple, all that ensued was sin, sin, sin. But look at Shri Krishna, what he said in verse 38, treating like pleasure and pain, victory and defeat, gain and loss, get ready for battle. Thus, what did he say, Sono? You will not incur sin. Only scripture in the world where it says specifically, you will not incur sin. If a husband gives his wife £5,000, then is there any gain and loss? Guruji always says as a joke that it will be a loss if he spends the money, but was it a loss when he gave it to her? No, because they were living in the same house as husband and wife, so they are one. Whether it's in a husband's pocket or in a cupboard, it's exactly the same. They are both one, and so the total balance remains the same. In the same way, if such feelings of oneness with the world arise, then it does not make a difference to a person whether a thing has gone to him or whether it's gone to another person. If it does not matter to one whether it's victory for him or another person, if it's a pleasure to him for another person, if it's a gain for him or another person, then that person is in the state of mind of a karma yogi. This is because whatever actions he does will be without desire. When one gets the yoga of knowledge, then the yoga of action comes by itself. And it is when a person performs karma yoga that the yoga of knowledge has a value. They are interrelated, and that is what Shri Krishna is showing here. Both are incomplete without the other. Our scriptures say that a person without knowledge is like one who has a person in the way of knowledge who has eyes to see but has no legs, and a person of the way of action is like a blind person with legs. When you combine the way of knowledge with the way of action, then you can reach the Supreme Being. How can a metaphorical blind person or a metaphorical person without legs do this on their own? In the same way, a person with one eye and one leg also cannot reach the destination on their own, because both the way of knowledge and the way of action need to be developed together. Both need to have faith in each other. Only then can you reach the destination. Think about it. The blind person will carry the legless person. The blind person needs faith in the legless person that will show him the right direction. If the legless person says to go right, then he should have faith in him to turn right. If the blind person says that he's going in the wrong direction, then he will go the wrong way. The legless person also needs to have faith that the blind person will carry him there. The legless person can give the directions, but they will depend on the blind person to carry him there. What if the blind person tells the legless person to tell him to get off halfway? Then he will not reach the destination. Both have faith in each other, and that is why they reach the correct destination. A simple way of putting it. The way of knowledge and the way of action can be combined, but to cement them, what do you need? Devotion. You need devotion. The Gita will also show this in chapters 7 to 12. This devotion and faith is a cementing force. If action is limited and knowledge is limited, then if you bring them together, they will still be limited until you get devotion. When we are trying to understand the Ramayana spiritually, then it is shown in there as well. Ram represents knowledge, Lakshman represents actions, and Sita represents devotion. Ram represents knowledge, Lakshman represents actions, and Sita represents devotion. The combination of Ram, Lakshman and Sita is a combination of knowledge, action and devotion. When we have all three, then all three requirements of life are complete. Ram is complete. There is no happiness in being complete alone. Lakshman could never stay alone because action can never be alone. If one does action, then who do they do the action for? Sitaji also could not stay alone. Ravan represents covetousness, adharma and sin. Sita got kidnapped because of Ravan's lust and his covetousness. Ravan is an embodiment of covetousness. Ravan vatna bhujayana, meaning he wanted whatever there was that was the best in the world. This is Ravan. His sister Shurpanka, meaning one with long nails, came to him. It says that the long nails represented in her perverted desires because she had lust for Ram, and then Lakshman as well came to him because they chopped off her nose. She came to him and told him that Sita is the most beautiful woman in the world. Ravan immediately said that he wanted Sita. When covetousness steals devotion, then both knowledge and action get sad. People always ask Guruji the question that Ram is God, so how could he not know that Ravan took Sita? And also, why does Ram cry over Sita when he is God? It is a way to show the spiritual meaning. When knowledge is without devotion, when Ram is without Sita, then it thinks that something is missing. When knowledge, action and devotion combine, then one reaches a true state of bliss. But when devotion is taken away, then one breaks down crying. There is only happiness when there is knowledge, action, devotion. When Ram, Lakshman and Sita are united together. Even in life, we need all three of knowledge, devotion and action. Shri Krishna says they have shown both the path of knowledge and the path of action before. He uses the word, look at it, first word in the second line, nishkarmya. This word is Gita terminology. What was the other word in the last chapter which was Gita terminology? Sthita prajna, settled intelligence. This is nishkarmya. There are some words that can be understood only within the context of the Gita and which can only be used in the Gita. This word cannot be found in any other scripture, just like the word sthita prajna, which we discussed in the second chapter. The word nishkamya must be understood properly. It means a state when one is unaffected by work. It does not mean that one does not do any work, but when one does work, yet he is unaffected by it. A nishkamya feeling, nishkamya is a feeling if you try to look at it grammatically. Therefore, nishkamya refers to feelings and not actions. That is why we say that a Brahmin and Brahminness are different. A Brahmin is someone that's born in a Brahmin family with a surname, for example, Joshi or Bhatt or so on. Someone with Brahmin parents is a Brahmin. Brahminness, however, is different. Therefore, in this case, it is nishkarmatva, the feeling, and not nishkamya, the inaction that is important. It is a nishkarmata, the feeling, and not the nishkamyan, inaction, that is important. The Gita gives great importance to this word, nishkamya. It says that one should act, but one should do it in such a way that one does not expect the fruits of actions, because that is when bonds start, when one expects the fruit of actions. We say in speaking that bonds are to action, but in reality, bonds are not to the action, but to the fruits of action. This is because, in such a case, the action is done with the desire of the fruit behind it. This is what ties us up. The bondage is not to the action, but my action. I am doing this. A great saint was giving a discourse on nishkamya and the fruit of actions. One person did not understand and just kept on asking questions. The great saint told him that he's explained to him all that's needed to be explained, and he cannot explain it to him through any further examples, but he was in the town for 7 more days, and if such an event comes up that in a village, then he would explain it to him. But the person kept on asking why people have bondages to actions. The great saints that people have bondage because of the fruits of actions. One day, this man was going to his farm. He had this bull, a buffalo. He had tied a rope around the buffalo's neck, and he was holding the other end of the rope in his hand. The great saint saw what was going on. The great saint went up to him and he asked him, "You're taking the bull to the farm, having tied the bull, but who has tied whom?" The man said, "You've told me yourself that I have tied the bull myself." The great saint says, "No, I am seeing different. The bull has tied you." The man asked him, "What are you talking about?" The great saint said, "Yes, let the bull loose. If you have tied the bull, then you are free to let the bull loose. Let it go." The man let the bull loose, and the bull started running away. As soon as this person saw the bull running away, then the man started running after the bull. The great saint said, "Now look, the bull is making you run. First the rope was in your hands, but the rope was let loose. This bull is more powerful than you. You've tied it with a rope, but it is making you have tied it with a rope, but it is making you run without a rope." Where does this power in the bull come from? The bull itself hasn't got any power, but the sense of possession of the bull, that you are thinking it is your bull, that bull is making you run. If your neighbor's bull is running away, then you would never go after it, unless you want to do it for fun. But I want to specify. Therefore, it's not the bull that's making you run, but the bull, but your bull that is making you run. An action does not bind a person, but my action binds a person. What about when a person leaves an action? The Gita says that even if you do not perform an action, but think about the fruits of action, then this leads to bondage. Nishkarmya is an art. It is a state where you perform actions, and you perform them at the best of your ability, yet you do not get bondage to the fruits of action. It is a state when you perform actions, and you perform them to the best of your ability, yet you do not get bondage to the fruits of actions. It is when you are acting, but you have a mental state of not acting. There are a lot of words, new words in Gujarati that can be only understood in the context of the Gita. You have words in Gujarati, for example, sakarmi, akarmi. Together, these mean that one is acting, but one does not get any bondage, because one does not think that he is acting. That is nishkarmya. Paramahamsa Ramakrishna, the great saint, the guru of Swami Vivekananda, said that it is when you are acting, but you also have the feeling that you are not acting at the same time. You are doing everything, but you still feel like you are not doing anything. By this, I do not mean that when you're doing so, when you say you're doing, I'm not saying when you're saying you're not doing it, but you feel from the heart that you're doing it. It has to come from the heart. Nevan chi karomati, as Shri Krishna is going to say later in the Gita. You may say, I'm not acting, but it's a feeling inside that matters. If we have this nishkamya, if we have this state of mind, how can we attain nishkamya? Our scriptures say there are 3 types of karmas, and we have to leave the bonds of these 3 types of karmas. Therefore, we have to do these karmas, but we have to be free from them. The 3 types of karmas are 1. Kriyamar karma, number 2, prarabdha karma, and number 3, sanchit karma. The first is Kriyamar karma, second is prarabdha karma, third is sanchit karma. Kriyamar karma means your day-to-day actions. If you are thirsty and you drink water, then the action is to drink the water and the fruit is the water. Once you have drunk the water, then your thirst is gone. Waking up in the morning, bathing, eating, all fall within this category of Kriyamar karma. That's number 1. Prarabdha karma means actions that we perform to repay for consequences of what we did in a previous life or early in this life. It means actions, prarabdha karma, that we perform to repay the consequences of what we did in a previous life or earlier in this life. We have repaid someone or someone is yet to be repaid in this life. An example of this is that something we did in a previous life for which we have got the body that we have right now. Once we get this body, then we begin repaying for those actions in our previous life. We may get a beautiful body or an ugly body, a strong body or a weak body. They are all prarabdha karmas. Everyone has wishes. Our scriptures say that we have to accept the body that we have got. Have we got a choice in it? We have no choice in our parents. Does God ask us what type of parents do we want when we get born? Like if we go to a clothes shop and choose clothes that we like, do we have similar choice for our bodies in the market? No. If it was so, then everyone would choose the most beautiful body, everyone would choose the most strongest body, but this never happens. The body is prarabdha. As soon as we get this body, we are repaying our karmas. As long as we have prarabdha karmas, then we will have a body. We have to experience all the pleasures and the pain of the body. The third type of karmas are sanchit karma. They are actions that we did in a previous life or in the past in this life for which the place, time or reason have not come in this birth. I repeat again, sanchit karmas. They are karmas that we did in a previous life or in the past in this life for which the place, the time and the reason have not come in this birth. Therefore, there needs to be a place, time or reason to be born. These have not yet come. Therefore, these karmas are stored and will come into effect in a future birth when we will repay them. There is a fine dividing line between sanchit karmas and prarabdha karmas. Sanchit karmas become prarabdha karmas and prarabdha karmas were once sanchit karmas. However, this concept is clear from what we've spoken about anyway, from the last, from what I've just said. How can we achieve nishkamya from these 3 types of karmas? Our scriptures have shown the way. First, for kriyamar karmas, we have to do them, for example, waking, sleeping, bathing, eating. You have to do them in such a way that the fruits do not touch us. We have to do them with a feeling that we are not acting. We can only achieve that when we get pleasure from the acting only. It's only because so we only act so we can get something. If you act so you can get something in the future, then you will become reborn as a result of this, because all desires are fulfilled. This interest will either be stored or you will start repaying it soon. Therefore, you should have the attitude that you do not want anything out of these actions, and whatever you wanted has been achieved just by doing the action. You should have happiness while doing the work. If you get the fruit from just doing the work, then you are 1/3 of the way towards nishkarmya. At least now, your kriya karmas will be finished. You're hungry, so you sat down to eat, and you got happy just by eating. As you were eating, you were happy as your stomach was getting filled, and then you went to wash your plates. Therefore, you have no investment in the future from this particular action of eating. If you are eating dal and you complain that it's the wrong dal, then you still have one dal left to eat in the future. This is because you have done the action in such a way that the fruit of action has arisen in the future. Your family, relatives, and the friends will know about the type of dal you like, and so they will make that type of dal in the future. From Guruji's experience, he says that he advises, never go and tell someone ever that you enjoy the taste of something. You'll never believe this. When Guruji was in Los Angeles a few years ago, he was made to eat paran puri and tirunalu shak at least 6 or 7 times. That is why Guruji said, please, I do not like paran puri. He doesn't eat fried foods or even sweets, so paran puri is the only thing that's left. By mistake, Guruji said it to someone that on his birthdays, paran puri is made in his house. The word was let out, and therefore, wherever he went in Los Angeles, he just got paran puri. Guruji does not like dinara, but those that have been to the US will know that you get a wide variety of dinara. In India, people have no value for dinara, so they just feed it to the bulls. And dinara is not that popular in India, but in the US, in the Indian stores, the corner, the stores call up the families and tell them that the dinara is ready for collection here. They used to buy this expensive dindaras from the stores for Guruji. After the 6th or 7th time, Guruji had to tell them that you can't eat it anymore. Therefore, what I'm trying to say is that you should do action in such a way that at that time, the kriya karmas would end. Otherwise, they will come in the future. Do actions so nicely that there is no investment for them in the future. Therefore, as soon as you have finished your kriya karmas, then you are 1/3 of the way towards nishkarmya. Then, second come prarabdha karmas. We cannot get rid of these without repaying them. We have to repay them in the body. Since, for example, which parents you get, which body you get, even the spouse you get, it's predestined. You didn't have no choice in it. Since we cannot avoid these karmas, we should bear them with a calm and patient mind, especially your spouse. Once we have done this, then the second third towards nishkarmya has been achieved. What are prarabdha karmas? As scriptures say, as I said before, our body is prarabdha karma. Our parents, our family, children, friend, loved ones, all are prarabdha karmas. You have not chosen them. You do not have a choice. You feel like you're choosing them, but you don't have a choice. They have existing karmas with you from your last births with them. They come and you must accept them. If your son gets born, then you must accept him. We have no right over these. We must accept these relationships, whether they give us pleasure or pain. Only then can you get rid of the prarabdha karmas. Then we are 2/3 of the way towards nishkarmya. Then what do you do about sanchit karmas? Think about it. In this one birth, we accumulate so many sanchit karmas, then what to say of our previous births? We have been paying for them throughout all our births, and we still have not fully repaid them. If you like to picture them, then we have created a mountain range of sanchit karmas, and I really mean that, a mountain range of sanchit karmas that we have to repay. The thing about sanchit karmas is that they are a vicious circle. When you are repaying sanchit karmas through prarabdha karmas and kriyaman karmas, then at that time of doing the prarabdha karmas and the kriyaman karmas, you're creating more sanchit karmas. This is a vicious circle, and it is very difficult to get rid of. When we leave kriyaman karmas and bear prarabdha karmas, then we think that we repaid all our karmas. But why then do we get reborn again? It is because of sanchit karmas, the stored karmas. We do not have direct control over these because we do not even know what they are. We have done some of them, but we do not know, we have gone through some of them, but we do not know what the future ones are. What can we do? Sanchit karmas are kept in the treasury, and we do not know when they are going to come out. We do not even know where this treasury is. There's a story for children used to come that when we were young, that there was a demon's giant soul was in a parrot. Some of you may have heard this, and that parrot was located in a cave across the 7 seas. Nobody could locate where the parrot was. In order to get the giant, they would have to cross over the 7 seas, go to the cave and find the parrot. The demon of sanchit karmas, this demon of the soul of that demon is like that of sanchit karmas. Nobody knows where the key to this treasury even is. The Gita says that there is only one way to finish sanchit karmas. As soon as the human being realizes that he is soul, that he is a soul, that he is Brahman, that he is God, that he is a supreme being, and also that such a soul cannot be bonded, as such a soul he cannot be bonded to any karmas, then at that time his sanchit karmas get burnt into ashes, and he achieves the final third towards neshkarmya. I repeat again. As soon as the human being realizes he's a soul, he's Brahman, and that as God, and that as a soul, it cannot be bonded to any karmas, then at that time, his sanchit karmas get burnt into ashes, and he achieves the final third towards neshkarmya. Therefore, kriyama karmas are finished through enjoying the activity without investing for the future. Prarabdha karmas are finished through tolerating them, and sanchit karmas are finished through knowledge of the soul. Repeat again. Kriyama karmas are finished through enjoying the activity without investing in the future. Prarabdha karmas are finished through tolerating them, and sanchit karmas are finished through knowledge of the soul. These three lead one to achieve complete neshkarmya. Therefore, the first thing we need to understand is the type of action we are doing. A person should have this discrimination. He should know that he's either performing prarabdha karma or kriyaman karma. When these and sanchit karmas are cleared, then one achieves complete neshkarmya. Shri Krishna says in this verse that one cannot achieve neshkarmya without acting. A lot of people think that one can, probably going through your minds and my minds, that one can only achieve a state of neshkarmya if they do not act. This is the wrong view. Shri Krishna says, not by abstention from work does a man attain to freedom from action, nor by mere renunciation does he attain to his perfection. It's the wrong view. It can be the case that there is brightness everywhere, and therefore one cannot see. If there's a camera light that's shining on one face, then one will not be able to read the book if it's shining one face. Even if there's complete darkness, then one cannot see. So when there's complete light, and there's, for example, camera shining on one face, or complete darkness, then one cannot see. People think that both these two states are the same. It's a kiddish attitude. People think that if one cannot see because there's total brightness and another person can't see if there's total darkness, then these two states are the same. In fact, the difference between these two is like the difference between the sky and the earth. Shri Krishna tells us in this verse that this total darkness is not acting, and this total brightness is neshkarmya. We must achieve such a state, otherwise we cannot escape from this vicious cycle. Even if we abandon all actions, then this will still not work. Why is this? Shri Krishna will tell us in the next verse, which we'll discuss in the next class. So with this in mind, I pray that all of you, with knowledge of these types of karmas, achieve this state of neshkarmya and beginning acting in such a way that you're not bonded to the fruits of action. This class was given in honor of Sri Hemantji Dharamshi Gajjar, and if any of you have any ancestors which you want to honor, please feel free. Let me know their names and I can do a class in honor of them. I bow down to this great scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, verse 3 and 4, and we'll continue from verse 5 at the same time next week.